The Trump administration is now planning to detain immigrant families indefinitely for days, weeks, even months, in direct violation of a 2015 court order. The Department of Justice arguing in a new filing Friday night they can legally keep kids together with their parents behind bars, or maybe in tent camps on military bases, as long as they want, because of a new court order banning family separation and ordering the families to be reunited. Now, that court filing came just one day before hundreds of events across the country protesting family separation and the administration's immigration policies, from big cities like Los Angeles to the U.S. border in El Paso, Texas, to cities and towns all across the country. I want to bring in two reporters who've been doing vital work on this administration's immigration policies, NBC's Julia Ainsley and Vox's Dara Lind. Dara, let me start with you, because this is something you've been writing about a lot. You've said from the beginning that basically the end game here was always indefinite family detention. And I thought that it was interesting they buried this on a Friday night, this court filing, where they basically said, look, you want us to unify families. We have a court order saying that we have to unify families. So fine, we're going to unify them and hold them for as long as we want, and you're going to have to deal with it.
Right. Instead of saying that the court order that came out last week and the 2015 court order kind of coexist in peace and combined prevent the administration from either separating families or detaining them indefinitely, the administration says that because each of those court rulings only banned one thing, the more recent court ruling essentially trumps and means that they do get to keep families in detention as long as they're detaining them together.
Yes, and I want this to be clear. This has been a forced choice from the beginning. The entire argument has been, well, we either have to separate families and prosecute everyone, or we have to hold families together in indefinite detention. They could just put them together and give them supervised release. There's no one's making them hold people. And in fact, they're explicitly prohibited from doing so by the Flores court consent decree, right?
Right. I mean, there are multiple alternatives to detention that the administration either ended before doing this or has been using in small degrees while they try to detain as many families as possible. But they have consistently believed that the only way they're going to stop people from coming to the U.S. or from absconding into the U.S. without showing up for their court dates is to keep them in detention for as long as possible and preferably to deport them as quickly as possible.
So, Julia, we've got some more reporting going on about how hard it has been for the administration to unite these families. Politico saying that as the deadline looms, Trump officials are struggling to reunite migrant families. They're now working under the clock from this federal judge that says you have to reunite them. Do we have a sense of what the numbers are? They seem like they've gone dark in terms of even reporting what the status of things are.
Right, Chris, they went dark. I mean, the number we were using a lot right when the separation policy was really gearing up in full swing was about 2,300. There were 2,300 children who were made unaccompanied minors because of this administration, and that there were about 11,200 in total in HHS custody. Some of those had been separated before, and some of those just crossed without parents altogether. But we know that about 300 to 500 were easily reunited. That doesn't mean that they reached in and they were able to do some sort of systematic reuniting. Those were children, we believe, who had just recently crossed the border. And so they were still in the custody of Customs and Border Protection. It's much easier before you send them out to 17 states across the country. It's much easier when they're still at the border, they're close by to the federal detention centers that are holding the parents, to quickly put them together. Now they are far-flung, and there doesn't seem to be a systematic way to do this. And something that Dara touched on that I just wanted to go back to about the forced choice that is really not a forced choice here is that the Obama administration was in the same position in 2015. They didn't need a court order to tell them not to separate parents from their children. They just thought that that was a humanitarian non-starter, but they were also operating under that Flores agreement that was reinstated in 2015 to say that it also applied to children with their parents, and they decided to let them go on ankle monitors. So the fact that that is not in the discussion now really has a lot of people scratching their heads. How can they come forward and make a legal argument that they have no other choice when the Obama administration was in the same place and definitively found another solution?
And Dara, it seems to me that there's like a real practical and profound, both practical and legal and humanitarian issue, which is like, are they going to do this? Are they going to comply with a federal court order? And are they going to reunite these families and these parents and kids? That is an open question at the moment.
See, the administration might not have been in this position had they not maintained to Julia and me and to the rest of the press that they knew where all the parents and children were and could reunite them whenever they wanted, and were choosing only to do so when parents agreed to be deported. It's not clear that that was actually true, because if that were the case, why aren't they doing it now? And so simultaneously, they're coming up against this deadline for how long they can keep families in detention who have come more recently, and this deadline for how long before they have to start reuniting everyone.
They need to be publicly reporting this data. I mean, the amount of dissembling, obfuscation, and outright deception from the beginning on this has just been completely unacceptable. Julia Ainsley and Darlene, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.